Hello, everyone, and welcome to this webinar organized by Docsity in partnership with Kent State University. My name is Alessandra. It's a pleasure to meet you all, and I will be moderating this event on behalf of Docsity today. So I see here that we already have some participants that have started to join us, and we will wait a few minutes before officially starting so that everyone has a chance to connect. But in the meantime, feel free to say hi on our chat here on Zoom and also tell us where you're from. Where are you joining us from? So, because we are curious to know. And first of all, I want to thank everyone for joining us and thank our panelists for being here with us today. And I want to introduce you all to Ellie Stiles, Assistant Director and also International Admissions Counselor at Kent State University. And then together with us today, we also have two of Kent State's alumni, Bruno and Madeline, who will take us through their experiences at Kent State University and where that decision took them today. Then we have Tara with us, who is currently a Kent State University freshman with a biotechnology major. And then we will also have Professor Christopher Totten, who is professor of the Bachelor of Science in Animation Game Design program. So together with them, we are going to discover what it's like to study at a university that has been awarded the top national designation for highest research activity. And you will also have the possibility to interact with their speakers and ask them questions. So talking about that, I would like to remind you that after the presentation, we will have a Q&A session where you will be able to ask all of your questions to our panelists. So don't be shy, and you just have to type all of your questions in the Q&A box that you see here on Zoom, and we will go through them at the end of the webinar. Another little piece of information before we officially start, for those of you interested in receiving a certificate of attendance by Docsity for this webinar, stay tuned because we will be posting the link to get the certificate at the end of the Q&A session. So I see here that we have some more participants that have joined us. Welcome to those who just joined. And I think that we are able to start now. So I'm now leaving the floor to our panelists for their presentation, and I will see you in a bit. Enjoy. Thank you.
Good afternoon, everyone. Evening for you. It's about 1 o'clock our time in Ohio here. I'm going to share real quick screen with you. This is just some flash facts about Kent State University. Lots of information here, as you can see. Lots of great information. So again, thank you for joining us, and my panelists also, and Alessandra from Docsity. I appreciate that. We have Kent State here is a large public research university in lovely Kent, Ohio. Kent is considered Tree City of the United States. We also have all 4 seasons, so it's a beautiful campus, beautiful seasons. Right now it's about 17 Celsius on our campus for a nice, lovely March spring day. Kent State is a very lively, as I mentioned, lovely campus. We have about 38,000 students in 8 campuses. One of them is, by the way, in Florence, Italy. So we've had a Florence program for about 15 years now. We also have a program, a 2+2 program in Curitiba, Brazil. We have a program in New York City for our fashion studio, and we are building a campus in Paris, France. So we are pretty much all over the world. We are, as Alessandra mentioned, our top research university in the United States. Kent State is considered an R1 institution. Carnegie Mellon gives this designation to universities in the United States that have the most published research and other research criteria. There are only about 146 schools in the United States out of 4,300 that have this designation. So it's very, very crucial, regardless of what you're studying. You know, oh, maybe it's just a science field. Not necessarily. It could be any field. As I mentioned, our fashion studio, Kent State is one of the top fashion schools in the United States. We are actually the largest fashion program in the United States. And Madeline is going to be talking about her experience as she sits in Florence, Italy with this webinar. But we do have, as I mentioned, fashion and all the way down to engineering. So we have about 300 programs, all the way, as I guess, mentioned, the art programs, all the way to science, engineering, and most anything in between, including we have our own airport if you want to be a pilot. The liquid crystal that your phone light makes your phone light up, that's technology from Kent State University. We also have 400 student organizations. We are Division I sports. We were voted the 25th safest campus in the United States. Again, very good out of 4,300 schools. And we have great scholarships for our undergraduate students. We do have scholarships, assistantships, we call them, for our graduate students also. So again, if you're, as Alessandra mentioned, you're going to have questions at the end, we'd be thrilled to answer those for you. So just stay tuned, and hopefully you, stay and listen to all of our panelists, some great alumni and a current student, and Chris from our animation game design, as was mentioned. We also have a huge rec center with 8 basketball courts, 2 swimming pools, a very healthy campus. The cost of living in Ohio is about 10% less than the rest of the country. So there is that. We are considered with our, 6,000 students on campus. So we considered a very US college experience. So 25 buildings, 11 dining halls, 3 Starbucks, pretty much you name it, a 24-hour bus ride around campus. And again, with our reasonable tuition in comparison to the rest of the world, I should say, or at least the United States, it's very competitive. And again, when you throw in our very large scholarships based on your GPA out of 4.0, it makes it a more reasonable option, especially considering in the United States. So I'm going to pass it over to Alessandra, and she can lead you to our next speaker.
Hello again. Thank you, Ellie, for your presentation. So remember that if you have any specific question for Ellie, you have the time now to write them in the Q&A box, and we will answer at the end of the webinar. So I'm now leaving the floor to one of Kent State University former students, Bruno, who will tell us about his experiences at Kent State University and his position today. So Bruno, the floor is yours.
Hi, everyone. I appreciate you taking the time to listen to us and allow us to share a little bit about our journeys and why we think Kent State's a good option for you. My name is Bruno Bedaki. I'm originally from a city called Porto Alegre in the south of Brazil, near the border with Argentina and Uruguay. So that's where I grew up. That's where I lived until I was 18. And then I decided that I wanted to go to college in the US. And that is a choice that a lot of people are making all over the world. Obviously, like, there's a lot of positive things about the higher education in the United States, but there's also, like Ellie said, 4,300 higher education institutions. So it can be kind of tough to make a decision on where you should study, especially because we don't really grow up hearing that much about a lot of these 4,000 universities. So when I wanted to go to the US, I think obviously I would have the sense that some of you feel the same exact way. The first thing in my mind was, is this something financially feasible, right? So obviously, how much it would cost was a major part of my decision, but also I wanted to go to a school that had a great program for what I wanted to study, which was journalism. And it was kind of a journey to figure out where I should go until I kind of randomly stumbled upon Kent State in a college fair in Brazil. There were dozens, if not hundreds, of booths from different universities. And I was lucky enough to meet with a recruiter from Kent State. And like many of you, my mindset was really walking up to them and saying, hey, this is what I want to study. Is this program good at your university? And then these are my scores for TOEFL, or nowadays I know a lot of people are doing the Duolingo test score. but also, this is my GPA, this is my SAT. Do you have scholarships? How much it would cost to go there? And Kent State turned out to not only be a school that offered a lot of scholarships for international students and students with my profile, but it also has a great journalism program with, I think up now is up to 9 or 10 Pulitzer Prize winners. Pulitzer Prize being the most, impressive award that you can earn as a journalist. So I had an incredible time at Kent State. I moved there in 2014. I studied journalism, but I was also really involved in a lot of different parts of the university, which was something that I really was looking forward to, because in Brazil, and I'm assuming in a lot of countries like yours, you don't have as much of a campus life outside of going to class when it comes to school. In Brazil, you just go to the best school close to where you live, and you go to class, and then you go home. And in the US, there's that entire campus life culture. And Kent State is the ultimate college town. It's what you really looks like what you see in movies with, the very cute downtown with a bunch of shops and restaurants and parks. And the campus is really pretty. There's a lot of green, which is something that obviously a lot of times when we think about the US, we're thinking about New York and Chicago and maybe the big skyscrapers and not necessarily nature. But Kent State has a little bit of both, where it's a very modern university with a brand new architecture building, a brand new business building that's under construction and should be opening this upcoming fall. But then also, that kind of old school look of American universities like you see in the movies, and a lot of green. So I had an incredible time at Kent State, so much so that I decided to go there again for my master's program after I finished my bachelor's. So I can answer some questions too at the end regarding, that transition of going to the same university for both bachelor's and master's. I was able to get a full assistantship for my master's program, which means that not only did I not have to pay for tuition, I also received a stipend that helped me cover my housing costs, my food, transportation, all of that stuff. So Kent State's definitely a good university, both in terms of offering scholarships for undergrad students, but also assistantships for grad students. After I graduated, I was lucky enough to move to a place a little bit different than Kent, called Los Angeles in California. That was also a great opportunity. I worked there as a digital marketing specialist for an education technology company. I also had the opportunity to work as a screenwriter for a couple of TV shows, which was something that, I loved doing it. And then during the pandemic, I actually decided to move back to Kent. And now I actually work with Ellie in the Office of Global Education, and I help coordinate one of our international programs in Brazil. So if we have any Brazilian students, I'll be happy to answer any questions about that program as well. If not, I'm happy to share a little bit more at the end about my, overall mindset about what's good about Kent, things that, you should keep in mind when you're looking into applying to Kent and moving to Kent to actually study. But I think it's really important, and I want to emphasize, is that a university should be about a lot more than the first thing that comes to mind. And what I mean by that is that a lot of times as international students, when we're looking at a university in the United States, we're looking a lot of times at very superficial things, right? We're looking at what the ranking is for a university. We're looking at what the reputation might be. And those are really important things. Obviously, we want to go to a university that is internationally recognized, that has very good programs. But we also want to go to a university that will appreciate us as students, will reward us for being active students that actually contribute to the university. And I think that was one of the best things about Kent State. Kent State recently won the Paul Simon Award for internationalization, which basically means that we are one of the best universities in the United States when it comes to, incentivizing international education, whether that is welcoming international students or sending students to study abroad. during my undergrad, even though I was an international student, I also had the chance to go to Switzerland and do our study abroad program in Geneva. So that's something that a lot of international students get to do, even though they're already technically studying abroad by coming to the US. Even within their Kent State education, they get to go elsewhere and study. So there is a very important push at Kent State in order to kind of cultivate a international global culture. And there's an incentive for you to share your culture and your and the things you love and are passionate about from your country with domestic students and other international students. So there isn't really the sense that like, oh, I'm coming to the US and I'm like forced to like assimilate or to be Americanized. Yes, there's many opportunities to interact with domestic students and learn about American culture, but there's also a very healthy culture of promoting the rest of your culture. So I just wanted to say that. I know that I didn't talk as much about my own experience, but I think sometimes our individual experiences might not be as applicable to everyone. So yeah, if you have any questions that are more specific about, my major, my experience of studying abroad, and my opportunities in terms of internships and working after I graduated, I'm happy to answer at the end. But I'll pass the microphone, I guess, and the camera to someone else now.
Perfect. Thank you so much, Bruno, for your insights and on your experiences at Penn State University. So again, if you have questions for our speakers and for Bruno specifically, please type them in the Q&A box here, and we will go through them at the end of the webinar. So it's now time to hear from Tara, a student currently enrolled at KSU. So Tara, the floor is yours.
Okay. Hi, good evening or afternoon. My full name is Chizita Novo, and I am my first year. I'm a current freshman, and my major is biotechnology. I chose, at first, KSU wasn't part of like the schools I wanted to apply to. It didn't really cross my mind because I was in a hurry to get into a school after my gap year. That was around May last year. I was in a hurry. I was in a hurry to get into a school, but I had a family friend who introduced me to who was helping me apply to schools and introduced me to Kent State University, and I just decided to go ahead with it and apply for it. I'm happy I picked this school because I noticed that the other schools I applied for did not have the course I was going for. Because I think I heard about technology is a new course, but I'm happy I picked KSU for this because it has other diverse other courses that you not hear of before, and I also pick KSU because of the global opportunities. Like I plan on spending a semester in Italy or doing research program in, I can't remember the name of the country, but another country, I think around South America. I can't really remember it, but I can't wait for it. Then the academic excellence in Penn State is really good because I've had because as a Nigerian, I've had some problems with switching from the British curriculum to the American curriculum. So I've had amazing tutors that helped me especially in my math course. I was able to switch between the courses very easily, and I'm going to understand this, and I'm getting really good grades. The In terms of international students like myself, I wasn't really expecting to see a lot of Nigerians. I thought I would see Nigerians, yes, but I thought I'll see like 10 in total. But it came to my surprise when I saw that we were a lot. And the fun thing that I happened to see one of my friends from back at home. So I'm really happy that Kent State is really diverse in that field of international students. I so far I've come to really enjoy KSU, and I'll love to introduce people into this school that are back at home. Like my siblings, for example, I can tell them to come here, or other family friends. I'll love to introduce this school to them. And and my campus life, I've been able to make a lot of friends that have introduced me to a lot of events, like the random events. They show me how to like get there, or show me how. I don't know. I'm so sorry. I'm happy for with the events because I'm able to make new friends through the events they've done, like hall events made by the hall councils. I've also been able to join the hall council, which is which is really fun on my part because then again, I'm able to make new friends and I'm able to make more connections with other people, and and I believe that I believe that you should come to KSU because you won't feel alone. That because I thought when I first came, when I first came, I thought I'll be entirely alone because it's really far from it's really far from where my closest family that lives here is. It's really far from Texas. That's where my cousins live, and I thought that I'll be alone for the rest of my 4 years here. But I've come to see that even if I just joined this school, I'm not alone, and I've had fun, and I'm understanding where I'm meant to, and I'm understanding my career path so far, and I want to thank KSU for that. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Sarah, for sharing your experience. And again, if you have questions for her or any of our panelists, you still have time to type them in the Q&A box here. So without further ado, I'm now leaving the floor to one of Kent State University's alumni. And here with us, we have Madeline, who's going to take us through her experience at KSU and also what she's doing today. So Madeline, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Alessandra. Hi, everyone. It's great to be here with you, and thank you for taking the time to listen in. And so I guess I'll kind of go from the beginning and kind of go a little bit backwards, but I went to Kent State for fashion merchandising, and I had a double minor in marketing fashion media. And so kind of rewinding a little bit into why I chose Kent State and how I ended up currently I'm actually based in Florence, Italy, but I'm an American originally from Wisconsin. So kind of how did I make my way from Wisconsin to Ohio to Europe? Really, I actually arrived at Kent State as a transfer student. So I initially did a few years studying nursing back in Wisconsin before I realized it wasn't really my life path that I was meant to be on. And so one of the first things I realized that I knew fashion was the next step. However, I had no idea where to go, what school to kind of look into, or what type of program, or even where in fashion within the industry I wanted to go into. So I really just started researching, and one of the top priorities for me was I knew I needed and I really, really wanted international experience. And so I wanted to look for a school that had great opportunities to study abroad or within the US at different schools. Also, I wanted it because I was making such a mid-shift university career change, I wanted to make sure it was one of the top fashion programs in the US as well. And then the third item that I was really looking at is what was the really well-rounded experience that I could get. So a large university, very diverse students, different opportunities to be involved within the campus, outside of the campus, in the community, kind of where it was located in the US. So those were kind of all big areas that I was really looking at. And fashion, as some of you may know, it's very well situated in New York, maybe over in LA, in California, San Francisco, and then a lot of times mostly in Europe. And so when I was really researching, I was like, well, you know, a city, that's great, but I'm not sure if I really want that city life yet. I know one day I'll probably end up in New York for my career, but I think for university, I want something a bit different. And then I found Kent State, and Kent State being one of the top fashion programs in the US. And I started really digging into and realizing, you know, all the different programs that they had at the school, just outside of fashion and within the fashion, so the different types of classes. And so, as I said, I specifically was looking at fashion merchandising, but I also had I really enjoy the design side of things, so I tried to really kind of blend the two. So there was different classes that I was able to take for like fashion visuals into the fashion merchandising, buying and planning, kind of blend the two. And that also kind of went in line with my fashion media and marketing, really trying to blend. So I had a really well-rounded experience. And then what really also caught my attention was their study abroad programs that were specifically, they're offered for I believe, a lot of different programs at the KSU, but then they also had some specific ones that were offered for fashion students. And those highlighted New York, Florence, Paris, and I believe there's also some in London, Hong Kong, LA, and I'm missing one other one. I think South Korea. So now it's really gone big and really expanded. But what I actually caught my eye and what I decided to do is plan out, okay, if I transfer to Kent, this is what I'm going to accomplish in my time at Kent, and these are the study abroad programs that I'm going to do. And so I ended up going to New York for a semester, and I also did Florence for a semester. And I worked with admissions in the fashion program, and we kind of laid out my whole structure for those 2-3 years and really tried to make sure that I got everything that I possibly could out of Kent, and really just had a great, well-rounded experience, met people. As I said, being international was a really big priority for me. And so not only was it just studying abroad, but on campus as well, as some of my other alumni and other students have just mentioned. You know, there's plenty of diverse, huge groups to get involved with. The list is never ending. And the other thing that I really enjoyed is the downtown area, right next to campus. You can walk. It's definitely college downtown and tons of coffee shops. So I was always studying there all the time. It was like one of my favorite places to go. So that was one of the big reasons. It just really gave me that well-rounded experience. And on top of those study and abroad opportunities and the professors that I had there helped build my network, which my network led to those internship opportunities. So you know, in New York, I was able to work at Oscar de la Renta and network with a number of different students and colleagues over in New York and build up that luxury fashion experience. And also I worked with some corporations as well in New York, and that really, really helped because I got that foundation from Kent State that really carried me through my study abroad experiences and then even postgraduate into my career. And that also actually led into when I studied abroad in Florence. So over the semester that I was here in Florence, I was able to get an internship as well. And that really also helped build up my networking, international networking and experiences. I worked with a small boutique perfumery and really focused in on product development and marketing and looking into kind of like the cultural differences and how we work with the different stakeholders for that clientele and for the products that we made part of that company. And so it really gave me that really nice rounded experience that I was really hoping for. And I just kept taking little tiny steps one way or another. And each way, you know, I really felt that KSU helped build that foundation and kind of help, you know, bring me forward as I kind of kept pushing myself as well. So it was really great. And I think that's also kind of what led me to later after Kent, I did end up doing my MBA over here in Italy. I don't think I would have felt as strong and confident to do that if I didn't have that study abroad experience from Florence with KSU. And so that was really great. And then that also has led me to my current position, which is, so I work for the Biodiversity Consultancy, and I am a nature strategies consultant and fashion specialist. And in other words, that kind of means I work with a lot of different fashion clientele, from luxury to corporate to kind of small, medium companies. And I really look at, you know, what they are doing strategically from a nature standpoint. When I say nature, I'm referring to kind of biodiversity, and that also touches into climate, and that can even go all the way into social sides. And I also then look at their supply chain, and we start doing their biodiversity footprinting and how they're making their impacts, the, you know, direct and indirect impacts, positive and negative. So all very focused on sustainability and how can we shift those fashion companies forward to really making a stronger impact, addressing the pain points in their supply chain, and really making hopefully a brighter future for everyone. And so I think because of all of that and the combination of, you know, KSU building that really good foundation in the fashion industry, and then combining it with my network and getting those different opportunities internationally, that's really kind of helped lead me to where my career is now, which, as I said, I'm based in Italy, but I do a lot of work all over Europe. And yeah, it's a really, really exciting place to be. And I'm very happy that Kent State was part of my journey. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Madeline, for sharing your experience. So in the meantime, while we wait for Professor Totten to join us, I think that we can start reading some questions because we have a few. So let's just start with the first one, shall we? Okay, so one of the questions is, hi, do you require a minimum level of English to be accepted? And what are the English certifications that you accept?
That's a very good question. And yes, we do require English. So what would fulfill that would be the TOEFL 71, the Duolingo 100, and the IELTS of 6.0. Those may vary. That's for undergraduate. They may be higher depending on the program for graduate students. Also, if you have a US degree of some sort, you can have your English waived that way. And then certainly if you're from a country that speaks the majority of English, then that would be waived also because of that fact. So, and very good question. Thank you for asking.
Perfect. Thank you so much, Ali, for your answer. So next question is, do you offer scholarships for international students, and what are the requirements?
Very good question. Yes, we do offer scholarships for international students. So for graduate students, those in master's and doctorate degrees, as Bruno mentioned, he came to Kent State on an assistantship. So an assistantship means that you, it's very competitive, by the way. So obviously Bruno is a very bright person, right, Bruno? And so you have to have, of course, done well in your undergraduate work, and then maybe some research, some things to build up your resume, because they're looking for very top talent to award those assistantships to, because it does cover all your tuition. And for that exchange, then you would teach a class or do some research. For undergraduate, we have our global scholarship that is up to $17,000 a year for 4 years. And it's all based on your grades, the grades you receive in high school. So when mom and dad say work hard, they're not kidding. So the higher your grades, the more money you get at Kent State. All the way up to, like I said, the 17,000, and that could include the honors scholarship. So to be part of our honors college is an honor and looks great on your resume when you're going to apply for jobs. So, yeah, some good funding sources.
Okay, perfect. Thank you so much, Ali. And on that line, we have another participant here, Danilo, who asks, are there any scholarship programs for an athlete that is that wants to pursue a master degree?
That is a good question. I don't think I've ever been asked that. So for NCAA, so Kent State, as I mentioned, is Division I sports, which means you have when I'm on the road talking to students recruiting, I always say, okay, so let's say they say basketball. I say, are you one of the top 10 basketball players in your country? So, that pretty much puts everything into perspective. So there's that. But yes, we do have athletic scholarships that you can combine with the regular scholarships. But for NCAA, which is, the National Sports Association here in the United States, you are eligible for, I believe, 5 years, depending on your high school studies. They gave another year because of COVID. But I think, of course, it has to be a certain age also. I'm not an expert, but Docsity does have my contact information. I could certainly connect you with a coach, and he or she could give you more details on that.
Okay, perfect. Thank you so much, Ellie. So in the meantime, I see here that Professor Christopher Totten has joined us. So I think that we are going to give him a couple of minutes to set everything up, and then we can read one last question before his presentation, and then we will leave the floor to him, okay? So next question would be, do you offer internship opportunities during the studies?
Oh, very good question. Yes, all great questions. I appreciate that. Yes, we do offer internships and co-ops. Some are paid, some are unpaid. In my master's degree, I had to do 2 internships as part of it because internships, employers are really looking for internships. If you've done internships like Bruno and Madeline have mentioned, and I'm sure Tara will someday during her career here, the employers are really looking, have you done on the ground work in this field, right? So yes, we do offer internships through our career exploration department, so they can help you find jobs, career at the end of your career, and then internships and co-ops during your career. Also, I did want to mention, and maybe it may or may not be asked, we do not require the SAT or ACT. So it is not required, or essays. So some people often ask that, and we do not require those testings.
Okay, perfect. Thank you, Ellie, for your answer. So I wanted to ask Professor Totten, are you, hello, hi, welcome. Are you ready to give your presentation?
Sure.
Okay, perfect. So I'm now going to leave you the floor for your presentation, and we'll go back to the questions. Okay, thank you.
Sounds great. Yeah, I have kind of an informal thing, and I just got out of class, so if you hear folks milling around in the background, that's what's going on. But hi, I'm Chris Totten. I am the lead faculty and program coordinator for animation and game design here at Kent State. It is a program taught at 3 of our campuses, the Kent campus, the Tuscarawas campus, and the Stark campus, taught in full at them. But basically, it covers, well, again, 2 things, animation and games. People always get confused. Oh, is it games animation? It's like, no, it's animation and games. But we are a arts accredited degree accredited by the National Association of Schools of Art and Design. We are listed as number 44 for game design according to Princeton Review, and we are also listed in the top 20 of schools with a Bachelor of Science in Animation by Animation Career Review. I think that's the correct ranking. We're ranked on a few of their lists. So, but basically, what we have is a program where everybody takes a core where they learn particular skills related to both animation and games, things like digital art, digital media, 3D animation, 2D animation, and we also study the cultural impacts of both games and animation in the world around them. That gives you a lot of marketable skills right at the beginning. You know, and like one of the previous speakers was saying, that you know, we really like to emphasize giving you some marketable skills right away so that you can have that time to really have that boots on the ground type of ability to do the job. And then once you finish your sophomore year, we have a midstream portfolio review where we ask students to present pieces from their portfolio. We give them feedback and kind of help them, you know, guide them on like what we think might be a promising sort of path forward for them. And then they have their concentration. Again, they can concentrate in either animation or games. In animation, you are concentrating mostly on building characters, storytelling, you know, film language, things like that, film editing, you know, etc. And then with games, you're working on interactive environments. You're working on, you know, game design, not only for the big commercial industry, but also for other sectors of the industry outside of just the stuff that you might have been marketed, you know, games on home consoles and things like that. But we also do things like games for education, games for advocacy, games for, you know, putting a positive effect on the world somehow with your designs. You know, and we allow students to take from like one concentration to take classes from another, so you're not missing out on anything by, you know, concentrating in one or the other. You know, we also have an internship. We actually have an internship that, you know, we help students find stuff through kind of industry-specific job aggregators and other opportunities that we've lined up. We are a Rockstar New England. So that's the studio that makes like Grand Theft Auto, you know, and other games. But we are an educational partner of theirs because one of our alums actually works there. We also have, you know, one of the cool things that I really like about Kent State, that I like working at Kent State, is that I own my own work, right? And that's not true for faculty at a lot of colleges. They, you know, maybe the college will own their work, but that also extends to students. Students own their own work. But that gives us the freedom to both, you know, if you come up with something really cool in your classwork, we encourage you to go form a studio, sell it online, you know, make something with it. Likewise, with the internship, we actually, in addition to being academics and teachers, we are also like working in the industry right now. And some of us, like myself, have our own studios, and we've actually had students help us on internship projects through our studios as well. Again, these aren't research projects, and I mean, they're, you know, we use them for our research, but you know, they're commercial game projects. So like I had a game, the game that I have my students help me with when they sign up for the internship, and you know, and when they apply to it, because they apply to it like a job, is one that was featured on the Steam game marketplace last summer, which, you know, if you know, is one of the biggest game marketplaces in the world. So, you know, that's a little bit about our program. You know, I'm sure I could, if there are any questions, I could gush more, but I want to hear what other folks have to say.
Perfect. Thank you so much, Professor, for sharing your experiences and also more information about the program. We actually have one question for you, because there's a participant that's saying, I'm very interested in the animation program. What are the requirements to apply?
Okay, so kind of likewise, we don't require, so we actually, because we're run out of the regional campuses, have an pretty open enrollment policy. Now, I do not have that enrollment policy memorized because I am not on the admissions end for that. But generally, you know, we have a pretty, you know, I would direct you to the animation and game design website for some of those admissions requirements. But, you know, again, because we're a regional campus, we have a very open policy on folks getting in because we are a a resource for local communities. So, you know, a lot of what has been said about not requiring certain things certainly apply to us. We do not currently have a portfolio requirement either. You know, like I said, we require one during the student's time with us as a requirement to do a portfolio review. But we also because we are so multidisciplinary, we don't require like an art portfolio or something, because we know that people are coming to us with all sorts of different abilities. So yeah.
And just to speak to that, Alessandra, for international admissions, for students, undergraduates, all they need is proof of English and their most recent transcripts, and the $70 application fee. And then for graduates, of course, for all of our programs, the requirements are more lengthy, you know, recommendations and goal letters and resumes and things like that. But for the undergraduate, it is a minimal application process, very easy through the student portal. They upload their own documents, very easy. And it's nice. As Chris mentioned, they don't necessarily need a portfolio.
Right. I'm also going to share the link. Okay, there it is. Okay, so sorry, I was looking for the chat window where I could provide the link. So yeah, I can make sure that folks on this call have that link to the correct site that has both the admissions info, but also like all the stuff about the curriculum and the concentrations and everything like that.
Okay, perfect. Thank you so much for your answers. And I think that we can move on with the questions. So we have another one regarding the application process. And the question is, do I need to submit a letter of recommendation with my application? And what kind of recommendations are most valuable?
So for undergraduates, we do not require recommendations at all. For graduates, yes, part of the application process is 3 recommendations, generally speaking. It would be one of your teachers. It would be hopefully somebody you've worked for, you know, and maybe somebody in a third capacity in your life. But you could have 2 teachers, 2 employers, you know, it's fine. It is good to have a little variety, not just like all 3 of your teachers or your instructors, professors from your undergraduate. And we're speaking for graduates here. So it's good to have a variety.
Perfect. Thank you, Ali. So another question regarding the application process. Here we have a student saying, are you still accepting applications for fall 2024? And is it possible to get an application fee waiver?
We are still taking applications for fall 24. And if you do want a waiver, you can mention this Docsity Fair to me and you can email me directly. And Alessandra can provide that, or I can put it in the chat, however you want it to go down. Yeah.
Okay, perfect. Thank you. So we still have a few questions left. So another one is, does the university offer housing services as well? And how do I apply?
Very good. Yes. So we have 25 dorms. Look at my campus behind me. That's it. In the fall, it's beautiful. So we do have 25 buildings for living on campus. And like I say, and all the amenities that goes with that, including the rec center, museums, libraries, you name it. And it is easy. So once you apply and you get admitted, and then you're sent a series of emails. One of them is, this is how to apply for housing. And I believe it's maybe a $200 housing deposit so you can hold your space in your room. But yeah, we have plenty of housing on campus. Sure do. And it's a great way to meet new friends. And also with our about 100 different countries represented, you're bound to find somebody that you're going to connect with. And also, as I tell students when I'm on the road, when you're a university, it's the only time in your life you're going to have this opportunity where you don't have a kids or a house payment or a car payment. So you're going to enjoy all the infrastructure that your university has, even if you don't go to Kent State. Just enjoy everything that a university offers. There's so much, and that's what you're paying for. And also not only friends, but networking experiences. You know, maybe 5 years down the line, you're like, oh, I remember my roommate at Kent State when I was a freshman, you know, her dad worked for so-and-so, or now she's doing this or that. that you can connect with those networking options, throughout your entire life.
Great, thank you so much, Ellie. And another question. Do you have a degree in physiotherapy or biomedical engineering?
We do not have either one of those. We have biotechnology for undergraduate. That's what Tara's in. And we have biomedical sciences, which is probably very close to the engineering part of it, in our master's and PhD programs. There are different concentrations, like organisms and genealogy, different focuses within that, but we do not have physiology or the engineering specific of biomedical sciences.
Okay, thank you, Ellie. So next question is, can you stay in the States after graduating and look for a job? Can the university help you?
Very good. Yes. Our Career Exploration Center can help you find a job on campus. I'm sorry, off campus once you're done. Again, make sure you have at least one internship in your resume. If you're a STEM, science, technology, engineering, and math, which we do have about maybe 40 programs of that, you can work 3 years in the United States. If you have a non-STEM field, you can work 1 year in the United States.
Okay, great. Thank you, Ellie. So we have a few questions for the students and the former students at KSU. So I'm going to read the first one that says, I'm also interested in pursuing a degree in journalism, and I wanted to ask Bruno about his experience. Did you get to do any internship, and does the university has a career service I could refer to?
Yeah, so as Ellie said, we do have a career exploration and development department, and they're really good at helping you kind of craft applications, resumes, cover letters, actually do the search. We also have a platform that we use that like for job postings, internship postings, all of that. As for like my personal experience, I've always been a very like proactive person. So even though Kent State did have a lot of those resources, I always tell people that the best way that they're gonna get to actually have some of the more exciting internships and whatnot is to put themselves out there and actually like pursue those things. So I was able to do 2 great internships and 1 fellowship. So I worked for CBS News in their investigative unit in New York City, and then I worked for the TV show 60 Minutes, which is probably one of the most well-known, if not the most well-known investigative journalism TV show in the US. And I worked in that program in Washington, D.C. And then I also was able to do a reporting fellowship in Asia, actually in Macau and Thailand through the Pulitzer Center. So those are all opportunities that I was only able to actually get because I was a student at Kent State. Obviously, those weren't just handed to me. That's why I always say that you need to be proactive. You need to be on top of your studies and your classes and make sure that you're making connections with your professors so that once you actually apply, they can help you with recommendation letters and whatnot. And I think that's valid for like every single major, not just journalism. But yeah, so both Kent State does have the resources, but also urge you all to put yourself out there and take initiative.
Perfect. Thank you so much, Bruno. And here we have another question from Eric, and he says, hello, my name is Eric, and I'm a recently graduated mechanical engineering engineer, from Brazil. And I would like to know how the GPA equivalence is made. Do I need to submit my translated academic reports? And where can I read more about the system program that Bruno was talking about?
So at least you're talking about so that this student already has a bachelor's degree in engineering, is that? So he's obviously thinking about a master's or PhD. Perfect. Yeah, to apply, he would need his untranslated, so his Portuguese and his English transcripts, 3 letters of recommendation, his CV or resume, a goal statement, so just a 1-page thing, saying what you want to do with this degree, and the application. Yeah, that's it. And then Bruno, you can attest to the other question.
so apart. I mean, the GPA equivalence, I don't know if that's something that you touched on, Allie.
Oh, I'm
But
sorry. Yes, that was another part of it.
yeah, no
So
worries.
we take, so we do see, and Bruno kind of tested this with our program in Curitiba. We see a lot of Brazilian transcripts from PUC and down that area, and other universities from Brazil. And so we put everything from our grades, from your grades, into a 4.0 system. So a 3.0 is a B, a 2.0 is a C, and like that. So, you know, they're generally looking for master's and PhD students. They're looking for students like a B and above average. So we do the conversion ourselves in our office.
Okay, perfect. Thank you so much. And then we have another question for our foreign students, and it says, how did you approach the application for a university so far from home? Did you do video calls where you could see the campus or talk to other students?
Yeah, so I actually had never even, I mean, I heard of Ohio before, but I had no idea what Ohio looked like. I didn't know any person in Ohio. So I think that's a pretty common experience with a lot of international students that apply to universities all over the US, is that a lot of times the university that's the best match for you might be a place that you don't know a lot about or you don't know anyone there. So when I mean, I'm not trying to call myself old here, but I feel like I'm getting old. When I applied 10 years ago, actually, there weren't as many resources as there are today in terms of, you know, virtual tours and multimedia content created by the universities. What's nice about Kent State now is that they have a lot of content and resources online where you can see what the campus looks like. There are tours that you can do through our website and through just watching YouTube channels. We have had a lot of students that have gone the influencer route recently. So they also share like day in the life videos that show the campus and their classes and all of that. So I think a lot of that is, again, going back to the proactivity. I would urge you to, since you're so far away and you don't have that like one-on-one necessarily like contact with someone on the ground that is here, you can either, you know, take the proactive route, research like TikToks, YouTube videos, like virtual tours, but also rely on our admissions team. Allie and her entire staff are very, very helpful in terms of talking to you about the campus and answering all your questions. So they can schedule kind of appointments where they can go over specific questions that you might have, and even maybe like show what the campus look like from their phones and their webcams and whatnot. So yeah, I mean, it is very different than applying to a university in your own country. But the beauty of it is that nowadays there's just so much out there in terms of technology and social media that it's very possible to get a good sense of what your life will be like at Kent.
Right. So as Bruno mentioned, we can meet just like this, just pretty much face to face. If people want to make appointments, we have appointments right online on our website. You can just click a time that works for you, and an admissions advisor would you know, help you out there.
Perfect. Thank you both so much for your answers. And we still have time for a couple of questions. So here we have some specific questions like this one. Does KSU have any subject barrier? Is it possible to pursue a master's in data science coming from a Bachelor of Science in Physics?
That is a very good question. I know generally speaking, you want your master's to be like what you took as an undergrad. But I would say, you know, I'm just a layman. I mean, I'm not a scientist. I would say if you can do physics, you could do data science. But I can certainly connect anybody with any professors that they want further details with. Absolutely.
Perfect. Thank you so much, Ellie. And to stay on that line, actually, I want to tell everyone that is participating that they will receive an email in the following days with the recording of the session and also all the relevant contacts to get in touch with KSU. So don't worry about that. And I think we have time for one last question, which is, hello, Do you have health, safety, environment engineering or environmental engineering PhD or post-PhD programs? This person has a Master of Safety Engineering and is now a PhD student of environmental engineering.
That is also a good question. And I know we do have some, because we have 300, I don't know them all, but especially the master's and PhD level. But we do have some environmental sustainability type of masters and PhDs. But I don't know, I'm sorry, I don't know them offhand what they would be. But again, the contact information, and feel free, please do contact me individually. My email will be provided. I have, can connect you with professors of any, like exactly what does that degree pertain? You know what I mean? So I can connect anybody with anything about anything.
Okay, perfect. Thank you so much, Ali. So unfortunately, we're done with our time here and we still have a few more questions. But again, you will receive all of the important context so you can get in touch with Kent State University. So first of all, I want to thank everyone for joining us today and for your questions. And also I want to thank our panelists for sharing their experiences and also answering all of those questions. And I would like to remind everyone interested in receiving a certificate of attendance by Docsity that they can do so by clicking on the link that I will send right now on the chat. And in the meantime, before we say goodbye, I would like to ask our panelists if they would like to leave our participants with a quick message.
I'll just say thank you once again, and I reiterate that what's going to make your experience in the United States and at Kent State the best possible is proactivity. I know I've talked a lot about this, but I think that what's so exciting about higher education in the United States, all the opportunities and all the things that happen on a college campus. But in order to make the most of it, you have to put yourself out there and get out of your comfort zone, which you will already be doing by moving from another country to the U.S. But you can do even more by putting yourself out there, joining student organizations, interacting with your mentors and professors. So, yep.
Perfect. Okay, so thanks again to our speakers and to everyone connected with us today. And I hope to see you again at the next webinar organized by Docsity in partnership with Kent State University. So bye everyone and enjoy the rest of the day.
Thank you. Thank you much. Thank you everyone for joining us. I appreciate it.
Yeah, thank you. And thank you everybody for setting this up.